Hello and welcome everyone, a new episode of Money Means Business. In the past 7 days, a number of very important meetings took place in the field of business and economy. And also Egypt celebrated on the 9th of September the Farmers' Day, and there was such a way to express gratitude to the Farmers' Day by the head of a state on his official Facebook page. Also, we are going to continue with tackling many projects, whether national ones, mega national projects, or the SMEs, because any economy cannot separate this from that. All economies should be built on both. But before we continue and before introducing my dear guest live here in the studio, let's live with this very comprehensive and detailed report about the analysis of some of the statements which were released recently by His Excellency Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Maït, regarding the Egyptian economy, as he said that the Egyptian economy was tripled in the past 6 years. Let's know more, and then we are going to be back, so stay tuned only on Nile TV International. Welcome back. We are going to speak about all the items I mentioned in my intro. But before going into these details, it was very emotional and it was really touchy when we found that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was keen yesterday to write on his official Facebook page that he really expressing gratitude and appreciation to the Egyptian farmers, saying that for thousands of years the Egyptian farmers were there to maintain our food security, to be behind the curtains, behind the scenes, and all the time making sure that Egypt will never suffer hunger, will never suffer famine, and we are going to be all the time a source of welfare and prosperity. Well, we are going to speak in details about all these things, but let me first welcome my dear guest live here in the studio, Dr. Hanna, our entrepreneurship expert. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, my pleasure.
From where to start?
From the point you would love to.
Let's start with agriculture, because agriculture now, I think it's one of the main pillars of our economy more than in any other time. Why? Because with the global repercussions of the Russian-Ukrainian issue, food security became on top of the priorities of all governments. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was all the time keen to say that whenever we cultivate what we eat, then we are secured. First, how do you see what President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi wrote on his official Facebook page regarding the farmers? And let's start with agricultural small and medium projects, because you are an expert in that, and to what extent this is a very big step on the right track to reach what we really want from the coming for the coming generations.
Oh yeah, very good question. Thank you for it. Well, let's start by the history. Along the history, agriculture has been not just a source of the economic status of Egypt or one of the important parts of the GDP. No, it's core part of the Egyptians, of farmers, of everyone. I think it's part of Egypt culture along the history. So I would take your words and say it was very emotional, yes, because farmers are in a strong need to motivation, to inspiration, to feel that the country gives them a priority and the government are thinking about them. Mm-hmm. Then let's talk about the Russian-Ukrainian, and just before the COVID and the Russian-Ukrainian war, the ease of import and export made all the countries not giving the enough thinking about self-sufficiency and self-satisfaction, because everyone can import or export any crop, any source of food from any country. But now I think this was a very important alarm to start rethinking again that we have to cultivate our food, we have to have our self-sufficiency, we have to have our own resources, because it happened in just a very little time, and now we are in this situation. So food security, I agree, has becoming a very important priority right now. Mm-hmm. And of course, the farmer, the hero of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amid the global disruptions in wheat supplies triggered by the Russian-Ukrainian war, Egypt has introduced new price guidelines to incentivize farmers to sell more wheat to the government, raising the price of the RDOB of wheat to 880 in May and again to 1,000 starting October. And in all occasions, the president was keen to say that he is going to continue with giving directives to the government to try by all means to support the farmer and to increase his income, to provide him with all facilities. You may name a number of procedures taken on the ground. How do you see this?
Yeah, I see this is like, let me say, a corrective action that should have been taken. And I'm so happy that it is being taken right now, because farmers should not be left unguided. This is a normal situation in all countries. Farmers in Egypt, they suffer from many challenges, starting from the question what to cultivate, and if this will give him the return on investment enough for having that livelihood for his family and for his big family in most of cases. So what to cultivate, when to cultivate it, how to direct his cultivation to be more sustainable or more green, so he has opportunities to export, so he has more ROI and things like this. Considering the strategic crops. Small farmers cannot think about the strategic crops without having clear guidance from the country. So I feel this is very important to guide the farmers throughout the whole process, starting from cultivation procedures, irrigation, especially talking about the water scarcity issues and in the whole world and in Egypt. So
yes.
Yeah, then the crop, how to market the crop. Is there any opportunities to export? Should the direction of the government be to export or to the domestic use of some strategic crops? Because all this information should have been or should be given to farmers, so we can make his life much more easier, so he give more productivity and more ROI from the agriculture sector as a whole.
Amen to that. Based on scientific rules, and maybe this is going to be the third time I say so, to all our new generations, to all our students who are in the final years of the secondary school, please consider Faculty of Agriculture. This is our future, and you are going to be responsible for food security for the coming generations. Please take into consideration that this is going to be on top of the priorities, and believe it or no, if you manage your life, your career in a good way, you are going to be also that wealthy. 70 projects. Just before being on air, you just mentioned this number, and for me this is huge. Tell us more.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'd love to second you first for what you said, because agricultural career is becoming more and more important, and there is a concept that all youth have to think about. Is called agricultural innovation, because all sectors without innovation, they would be very traditional as they always were. So when you think about agriculture, don't think about the traditional cultivation that Egypt farmers are being working on since thousands of years, not hundreds. So agricultural innovation is what we are working on right now, and this is what we call the agribusinesses, from where we had a business incubator in agriculture. We accept ideas, projects, innovations, initiatives from youth all over Egypt to submit what they think will enhance, will support the agriculture sector. And actually we were very, very surprised having a huge number of Egyptian youth having brilliant ideas, really. The concept of having a business incubator is new, and this is what
Before going into these details, do we have some ideas which we can elaborate on? I mean, some examples?
Yeah, a lot. Some ideas are suitable for startups, and they are very scalable. For example, we had an idea of, this is again the use of technology, the use of innovation, is using the artificial intelligence in diagnosing the plant diseases. So the farmer it's just done by AI engineers who load a big number of data, big number of photos, huge number of photos for a specific disease, let's say that infects a tomato crop. So once you have this application on your mobile and you have something suspicious in your tomato crop, you just take your phone and direct
Brilliant.
it, and you take a photo, and the application tells you this is the disease
What is
name,
that?
and the treatment as well, and where to get it. You can imagine how this can save money, time, effort, and can save a lot of our crops dying from diseases, losing the time, calling for agriculture expert, and he's coming, and this was an old history.
Sure.
Now technology is disrupting all this. Another example is one of the applications also is working on e-commerce in agriculture. Like we all know the platforms that we do shopping on. Is the same, but to present Egypt crops and their certificates to everyone around the world, so they can import or export any crops they want from Egypt, because we are not visible enough to the world. Many markets in the world, they don't know what Egypt is producing, in what quality, in what time along the year, what kind of fertilizers, what kind of pesticides, what kind of all agriculture is a huge worldwide market for the agricultural products in Egypt. Like this.
This is for the farmers, but for example, because when you were talking, you were giving me ideas. For example, I want to cultivate the roof of the top roof of my home, of my house, and I want to know what's suitable for it, how I can do that, if I can do this on my own, or I should be helped by others. How many people should I hire? Stuff like that. You know, I dream when we are in a plane, for example, I'm just looking from above to Egypt to find all the rooftops green. Is this possible, or it's only a dream?
Yeah, no, it's very possible. I'm happy because I'm sure one of our startups, he's hearing you now, and he's very happy because this is his idea. He's working on it, and he established a platform for teaching normal people like me, you, everyone, on how to cultivate his rooftop or his balcony or any area. If you want to take an agriculture course, because agriculture is now being a hobby, a passion for everyone.
Yes.
Not only a profession for farmers. People would love to have their own food being cultivated in their homes. So this brilliant young man from Upper Egypt Governorate, he is now having an own company, a platform where you can find online courses, videos, guiding, one-to-one. You can have a one-to-one meeting with agriculture experts online via the platform, and he advises you on your space, what to best to cultivate, how do you take care of it, and things like this. So
you do not know how much I'm happy with what you're saying. Another thing which it seems that I'm going to speak only about my dreams in this episode. Geographic locations, or the geographic distribution of crops cultivated. I mean, for example, if we want to regain our what I'm going to say about our cotton, our reputation, and our textile industry in Al-Mahalla Al-Kubra, for example, or in Kafr Zayat. What about cultivating cotton as a strategic crop in such places, or that close to those industrial complexes, and just beside, or just very close, very near to those factories, or to those industrial zones, if I may say so? What about cultivating, for example, a special kind of crop which is suitable for the dry or hot weather in Upper Egypt, because this is going to be that suitable for that. The geopolitical, geographic elements of the story. Do we have others who just focused on that, and to start with these ideas to be implemented on the ground, not to be only dreams?
Well, I'd love to mention 2 points here, because you're actually telling very inspiring ideas. First is the complementary actions that have to be there, or they are starting to be there between small and medium enterprises and between mega projects, because having huge hubs for cotton, for like the 1.5 million Fadan project, these mega projects can serve the strategic objectives and the 2030 plan of sustainable development in Egypt. This is important, and this we usually tell young people that this does not by any way contradict with having startups and strong SMEs.
Sure.
On the contrary, we are all working together to have a strong market, a strong competitiveness for Egypt in the agriculture sector. At the same time, startups and SMEs are very important to do complementary products or byproducts, or working on how they can market and use the results of these mega projects. So this is very important. For the second point, I'd love to add a concept that maybe people in agriculture are aware of, is called the cash crops. Meaning that when you cultivate a medicinal plant, or a plant you cultivate it for oil, so it's much better to cultivate it in a more hot region like Upper Egypt, because like this the amount of oil is more, and how precious it is, it differs, because yes, it's some active ingredients and some chemical items in it differs from area to area. So Egypt can just I'll give a small example, if you allow me.
Sure.
Jojoba, for example. It's surprising that Egypt have a request on jojoba oil for skin and for hair care much more than the amount cultivated. So if we just focus on something like jojoba and we take the oil is light in weight and
very light.
Yes, but it costs a lot, or it values a lot of cash than just normal crops. This is called cash crops, and this is also one of the important directions.
Yeah. And we do have villages for jasmine, for example.
Yeah.
We do have villages especially for this kind of crops, and it's not of course only for the local market, but it's exported, and I think we do have such a good reputation in that. True?
Yeah.
I mean, these experiments can be duplicated and can be repeated all over Egypt in with different ideas.
Sure. Egypt, actually we are Egyptians lucky to have a huge amount of opportunities in the agriculture sector than we can ever imagine. Also having deserts is not like
desert is not desert anymore.
Yes, exactly. And we have crops that can bear the low amount of water, and they are, for example, there are some fruits that are
and changing with the genes. This is also biological engineering, which can help us a lot in achieving what you're saying.
Yes.
And to continue with this, it's very important to say that it's complementary. The mega projects, the Toshka and New Delta, for example, with 1.5 million Fadans reclamation, part and parcel of our economy. But the SMEs is also playing a very big part.
Yeah.
True.
True. Very true.
Yeah, but since we are speaking about agriculture and about green, let's move to green economy also, and to speak about this as one of the priorities of our political leadership, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah. This is very true, and this is very positive, and because this is the future. Having the concept of sustainable development and combining the economic development very closely tied to environmental development and social development is a key. Without it, without thinking about the resource efficiency, we may, after 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, we may not find the same resources that we are relying on these days. So it is really important to think about it. That's why Egypt has a vision for sustainable development 2030, and I'm happy to see it included everywhere and in every action of ministries, universities, all governmental decisions. I think also Egypt had sustainable development bonds, and this is
yes,
important.
and diversifying our resources of renewable energy. Today there were very two important meetings as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received two high-ranking officials or businessmen, let's say, from Norway and from Australia regarding the renewable energy projects, and they are going to be implemented here on the ground, inshallah, in the very near future. But this is going to lead us also to COP27.
Yeah.
And COP27, it's going to be such a conference, due of course to be hosted in the Ritz Resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, and of course all over the world, and leaders from all over the world and heads of government are expected here. How do you see the importance of the timing, and how do you see our preparations? Because we started preparing for that, I think, more than a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, I see it a great opportunity that we all have to take advantage of. Everyone in the world are now interested and very determined to sustainable development. They will all be in Egypt. This is our time, this is our chance. And let me tell that it's a win-win situation for everyone. Egypt is very rich with solar, with sun, so solar energy is there. It's a green source of energy. Some people, let's get back to desert. Desert is it's called solar farms. So we have a huge amount.
Solar and wind.
Wind, yes, wind as well is very available in Egypt. So we have all the capabilities to show the world that let's work together. And this is
now, Dr. Jean, why I'm asking these questions?
Yeah.
Because investing in the energy field, it's a brand new idea, at least to a great extent for many people. Is it possible to pave the way for new, young investors or for small businesses to choose energy as a field to invest their money in, or still this is something which is that's starting? I mean, we did not have many steps on the right direction regarding this issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, a very important question, actually.
Or the COP27 is going to be the platform, the leap, the turning point.
Well, let's agree first that investors are seeking only to be always in a secure environment. When he puts investment, he wants to make sure that as much as he can, that it has the ROI he expects, and to most of cases he will not be surprised by any changes. This is the main concern, because we work with investors all the time who invest in a startup. This is the mentality of the investor. So I think if we can, like you said, pave the way to show the investors that energy in Egypt is a secure place for their investment, is a trustworthy sector for their investments, is a long-term direction for Egypt, I think it will be very
Let me put my question in other words, because I don't know if this is still implemented on the ground or no. Some economists were saying that money is coward, and you will be all the time making feasibility studies and stuff like that to make sure that you are going to have the revenues and you are not going to lose. But without pain, no gain without pain, as they are saying also, and new ideas always win. Is it the role of NGOs, of the private sector, the STR, the corporate social responsibility, to train the newcomers to new fields, and after that to let them go and find their way? What to do to have this integration, to attract more young investors, to invade new markets and to open new horizons?
Yeah, you touched a very important point, actually. It's the role of all the sectors you mentioned, because what we miss sometimes is the stakeholders' engagement. We have to bring all stakeholders. NGOs have their role, private sector have their role, small and medium enterprises have their role, the media has its important role, the government, the non-governmental institutions, the universities and the research people, the economists. So the work of all stakeholders together can give like an overview for the investor. is that this is a promising sector. But let me tell that you also mentioned a very important point, that new ideas went. So all investors right now are thinking, where are the new fields of investment? Because traditional sectors, their growth rate is so limited and also threatened, like many sectors that I don't want to specify one. But we all know that in some tens of years, the traditional sources of energy are going to be done. So
to fade out.
yes, yes, exactly. So what is the new? What's the alternative? This is what always investors are thinking about.
Yeah. Here I'm not only speaking about energy, I'm speaking generally, because the president was keen in many occasions to speak about the private sector as part and parcel of our economy. For example, he said that the gym, the Grand Egyptian Museum, it's going to be run by a private sector company, and this was very strange for many people. Oh, the Grand Egyptian Museum, it's not going to be related to the Ministry of Culture. Oh, okay, it's going to be the Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Antiquities and Tourism, but also it's going to be run by a private company to make sure that it's going to meet our aspirations, and this is going to be our gift to humanity. How do you see giving the private sector its role, and maybe to give it even more than they expected?
Yes. Well, let me tell my point of view here.
Sure.
That we have to somehow learn new things. All nations are learning new things, and we all have to learn that private sector is a key player in the economy. Not only, by the way, investors or private sector from inside Egypt, even investors and private sectors and mega companies, international companies, because if we hear about very important airports, factories, companies in some countries, let me tell, for example, Heathrow Airport, they are not managed by governments as we imagine. They are managed by huge international companies, and this is normal. The investment worldwide is a very open market, and maybe because of this is new, is somehow untraditional to us, but I'm sure it will be coming, and this will give a great push.
This is what was agreed upon today with the Norwegian and the Australian companies. The exchange of expertise among between the two sides, the Egyptian and the other sides, is going to be translated or reflected on the ground in projects, and this means to decrease the unemployment rates, to afford more job opportunities to the youth, to empower youth and women. By the way, how do you see empowering youth and women, since you are an entrepreneurship expert, and the rate of youth and women participating or having their share in this field?
Yeah, well, this is always a priority, actually. Let me tell that youth and women, sometimes we had in the very beginning an idea that women will not be very enthusiastic to do businesses, to be business owners, but on the contrary, we have beautiful women from Upper Egypt Governorate, from New Valley, from areas that we imagine that women are not enthusiastic about doing business, but they are a very strong entrepreneurs and businesswomen, and they are leading successful businesses. So this is actually important, and I think that the government is giving...
If you wanna give us an example on that, we are all ears.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, I have a lot of success stories that I'd love to mention. One from Aswan Governorate, because it's in the deep Upper Egypt, and
they are beautiful.
Yeah. She's doing a great business of translating the Nubian culture to everyone. She's doing everything related to the Nubian culture, workshops, handicrafts, all the ancient Nubian food, and she puts all this in a very rich and interesting platform, and she has a nice place, and she's leading a very successful business. I'd love to invite everyone actually to visit her in Aswan Governorate.
What's her name?
Sarah.
Sarah, thank you for being the one you are, and our salute. We are saluting all the Nubians, because they are really part and parcel of our let's say, old and modern history. This is very inspiring, by the way. Of course, there are obstacles on the way. I'm not saying that it's a rosy life. What are the most important obstacles on the way before any entrepreneur or before any new businessman who wanna just open for himself a new gate for a bright future?
Well, actually, this is everyday debate because many young people, many startups, they think that the only obstacle is find the funding or find the finance for starting his own project. And after working on this many times, actually, the most important challenge is the mindset. Mindset of parents sometimes when a young man tell I don't want to apply for a job, I have a project, I have an innovation I want to start working on. Sometimes it's the barriers of the traditional way that the community they want him or her to have it. A girl who wants to have her own startup, sometimes she finds a lot of challenges, and sometimes we go into social barriers and we discuss a lot about it. Of course, some financial challenges meet us and meet them, but at the end, successful and
how this is solved, how all these problems, let's say, are solved on the ground. I mean, should we have a think tank, for example, a center, I mean, consultants, who can manage this?
My dream, let me share my dream. My dream is to have it part in the university education. University education has a lot to be done during this very, very potential time of everyone's life, rather than attending lectures and doing and studying and things like this. This is a very precious time. We have to teach students how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a change maker, how to get in touch with the community around you, so you have a predefined decision what you will be able to do after you graduate, instead of studying all the courses, succeed, and then once he start facing the practical life, he start discovering the world around him. For me, I see he should have done all this. If I can let university students meet ministers, meet companies, go into the private sector, meet NGOs, go to the field, discover their passion, start with a startup idea. This is what we are trying our best to do. All this during the
what you're saying is a talent or or something which can be acquired.
Well, it can be acquired.
It can be acquired.
Sure. All great entrepreneurs.
This needs a lot of effort. I mean, this needs. I should work on myself to reach this point. By the way, since when you are a specialist in this field, entrepreneurship? Since when?
Yeah.
For how many years?
Oh, yeah, for around 10 years right now.
Great. This is exactly what I want to ask about. What are the developments? What are the changes you have witnessed in this field from 10 years ago till the moment?
Oh, huge. And this is not my opinion. This is what everyone in the region and in the world is saying. Egypt went very, very quickly with entrepreneurship track. So if we just take a very quick look back 10 years ago, we will find that entrepreneurship name, even the concept was not known. Now we have startups, very successful startups. They raised millions of dollars as investment. They are now multinational. They are based in many of the Arab region countries and in Europe and US. Actually, Egypt is being seen, I'm not exaggerating, but Egypt is being seen as the source of successful startups in the region.
I cannot find a better statement to end this episode with. Egypt is?
Source of successful startups in the region.
Egypt is a source of successful startups in the region. It's not only here in Egypt. Dr. Jean, thank you very much
Thank
for your input. Have a very good night, and we are going to leave you with a promise to see you again in more episodes of our program.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Well, let's now live with our dear colleague Manal Ibiari with the events, the economic events which took place in the past 7 days. And by this we come to the end of this special episode of our program. Till we meet again same time on Nile TV International. Many thanks for watching. This was Nurmeen Abdurrahman.